Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, councillors, for Harlow. Welcome to this cabinet meeting. Can I start by wishing you all a happy new year and a happy new decade, this being the first meeting in the chamber of 2020. So, apologies for absence. We have none. Declarations of interest. None. Item 3 are the minutes, which are on pages 5 to 30. Has anybody any questions on the minutes, or I'll be happy to declare them an accurate record? Councillor Carter.
Thank you, Chair. Yes, it's minute 93 on page 13. The minutes of the General Subcommittee held on the 6th of November. That minute said that, and Master Rising Canterbury said that the report of HCS Housing and Regeneration Company had been delayed. There were multiple areas which still needed to be worked on, and it was vital that the Council got it right. Let's hope that the report will be ready to go in Cabinet after December. It's now after December.
It is indeed, and there's a forward plan, and you'll notice it's not there. The whole of this year is after December. We hope to bring it to Cabinet shortly. Happy to
Agreed.
Thank you. Accurate record. All right. Any matters arising from the minutes of the previous? Good. Thank you. So let's move on to item 5, written questions from the public, and we have 4 of those. Mr. Nicholas Taylor, would you like to ask your first question?
Yes, the Harlow Alliance Party, and no doubt hundreds of residents were delighted to see the main modifications made by the Inspector of Harlow Council's local plan. These changes will see a reduction of some 200 homes being built on council-owned land, including playing fields and green spaces between housing estates. Members will be aware that despite this, the plan, if implemented in full, will see 1,600 more homes being constructed in the area than is required by government targets. It was announced last week by the council we will be commencing a £12 million house building programme shortly. How does the council plan to meet the shortfall in council house building numbers as a result of the inspector's findings?
Thank you, Mr. Taylor. The Council is developing a proposed housing delivery programme comprising a number of sites that can be developed for council housing over the coming years. It's anticipated that there will not be a shortfall in the required council housing building numbers as a result of the inspector's main modifications.
And can I ask a supplementary question?
Please.
Does this mean that other sites outside of the local plan could be built on?
No, it doesn't.
Question number 2. The Conservative government said in 2012 that for every council house sold under the right to buy, a council house will be built to replace it. Since then, nationally, a new house has been built only when 7 council houses have been sold. In view of these figures, can you tell me how many homes Harlow Council owned in April 2012 compared with April 2019?
The council house stock in April 2012 was 9,824, and the council stock in April 2019 was 9,180.
Can I ask a supplementary question? Bearing in mind that loss of some 636 houses in the last 9 years, or 9 years, sorry, 7 years, does this mean that at the end of the local plan period, there will still be less council houses in Harlow than it had in 2012?
Thank you, Mr. Taylor. We've got an ambitious pipeline to build more council homes, but what's really needed is government action to address the nationwide shortage of truly affordable housing. We also have 2 questions from Mr. Alan Leverett. Mr. Leverett, want to read your questions?
Good evening, councillors and council officers. In March last year, the council undertook to consult the residents about the proposed sustainable transport corridors after the local elections in May. Until now, almost nothing has been done by Harlow Council to advertise exhibitions held in respect to the plans relating to the Gilston and Lat Priory. It has to be said that these include only very vague details of the transport proposals. The exhibition, which was supposed to have took place yesterday, was not advertised on the council website. This was only cancelled with the Harvey Centre 2 days ago. In yesterday's event, the sole attempt it had been done by Harlow Council to consult residents, if not only when and how is the council going to consult the residents in Harlow on these specific plans.
Thank you very much, Mr. Leverett. I'm pleased to be able to say that the public consultation on the Harlow and Gilston Garden Town Transport Strategy will commence at the end of January and will run until the beginning of March 2020. There was in fact no event that took place yesterday, which is why neither the council nor the Garden Town team had publicised anything. This was a tentative date for the launch of the consultation, which unfortunately erroneously found its way into the local media. The consultation exercise, when it's launched next week, will see material available on the Garden Town website for review and comment, and this will be supported by social media activity through the Harlow and Gilston Garden Town team. Harlow Council's communications team will also support this activity. There will be 2 staffed exhibitions in the Harvey Centre, dates are currently being confirmed, with officers available to hand out materials and answer questions. A similar event is also planned for Harlow College, and a presentation is to be given to the Harlow Chamber of Commerce on the 19th of February. During the entire length of the consultation period, there will also be exhibition panels on display in the Civic Centre reception. We welcome as many people as possible to get involved in this consultation process, which will be the first in a series of consultation exercises on the Garden Town proposals in the coming months and years. Do you have a follow-up question?
Fraser. Supplementary, are you going to include face-to-face consultations with the residents' associations?
That will be a matter for the Garden Town Board, and we'll ask them for you.
Because a lot of those are not registered, that's why I'm making that point. Second question.
Please.
With over 4,000 applicants on the housing register, what analysis, if any, has been carried out to determine the most useful type of home that the council should build to make the best use of the stock of houses and reduce the number of applicants on the housing register?
Thank you, Mr. Leverett. The Council's Strategic Housing Market Assessment, attractively called SHMAR, sets out the number of homes needed in future to inform our local plans and housing strategies. This seeks to meet housing need, support a healthy local economy and achieve a balanced housing market. Harlow's overall housing needs require all dwelling types. Current indicators show that there is significant need for 2-bedroom properties and a need for bungalows to meet the ageing population of Harlow. Do you have a follow-up question?
I do. Is the council aware there are hundreds of larger council homes occupied just by one person? Also, many occupied by couples with 1 or 2 with disabilities that would love to downsize their properties to suitable accommodation.
I think we are aware that there are some people in accommodation that doesn't meet their needs, and we'd urge them to contact council so that we can make those arrangements for them.
Thank you.
So, there are no written questions from councillors, so we move on to item 7, a petition from Mr. Brown. Mr. Brown, do you want to read the petition?
Yeah, please.
Thank you.
This is a change.com petition, stop expansion of Harlow and building on green wedges. And it goes something like this. The government has issued a requirement for local authorities to greatly expand house building in every part of the country. Harlow District Council, Epping Forest District Council and East Herts District Council have come together to draw up a plan to build 23,000 new houses in and on the edge of Harlow. This will result in us having to walk a lot further to get into open country, which is one of the things which makes Harlow so pleasant to live in. Some of the open green spaces and play areas within the town will be lost. The town will become a part of the London-Cambridge megalopolis. Most of the new housing is unlikely to be social housing. The argument for the expansion is that Britain needs to infinitely expand its economy and so its workforce, which will need more housing, to be competitive in the world market and to support an ageing population in retirement. However, Britain is the 5th richest country in the world and can surely afford to look after the people who created that wealth in their old age. Infinite expansion of the economy is not possible on a finite planet and is causing global warming, because cool air is one of the finite resources being exhausted. Britain's birth rate is falling naturally. Britain only has enough land to produce 60% of its food that we need, and needs to save its farmland from being built over. This drive to build on green farmland is happening all over the country and is being changed wherever it is planned. Hopefully, our democratically elected councils and government can be persuaded to cancel this initiative. New greenfield development in Britain last year covered an area the size of Greater Glasgow. It's happening everywhere. For some reason, I've always assumed that our Labour-dominated councils would challenge this kind of central government-promoted initiative, but the pattern seems to be that they find the prospect of an expansion of the council tax kitty more attractive than fighting to preserve immunity for existing residents. I have circulated the petition to local newspapers, one printed the petition text verbatim, radio stations, Campaign for the Protection of Rural England, several Harlow councillors, the Harlow Alliance Party who donated to spread the petition, many thanks for that. Last of all, Labour will give local people control over the housing that gets built in their area. Shadow Housing Secretary John Peely said Labour will give local people control over the housing that gets built in the area, printed in Politics Home on the 25th April 2019. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Brown. Thank you for being that here tonight. Councillor Curtin's going to answer for council.
Yes, well, thanks for this question, Mr. Brown. Not a question, petition. It refers to our plans with our partner authorities to deliver new homes and associated infrastructure in and around Harlow during the timescale of the local development plan up to 2033. As you know, this project is known as the Harlow and Gilston Garden Town. During the process of plan making, the impacts of development that are raised in your petition were identified and scrutinised by the council, embarked on a proper plan preparation process culminating in a public inquiry. The concerns you raise are not new and have been considered at length by the council through the plan making process. The Harlow Local Development Plan is due to be adopted later this year. As a result, this administration does not propose to diverge from its agreed course of action and is of the opinion that the development of the garden town is an exciting and innovative project to meet housing and economic needs of our people in the area for years to come. Significant additional work is being undertaken to ensure that the development that does come forward is of a high quality and sustainable nature. I thank you for your interest in the proposals and want to let you know that the detail of individual sites is being developed further with local residents who are most affected by them. As regards the last few paragraphs of your petition, which is obviously more of a political polemic, I wouldn't disagree with all of it, but obviously it is beyond the sort of decisions that the local authority makes. What you're really questioning is the whole nature of the capitalist society, and I'm sure we can have a good discussion about it, but it's not part of the local development plan. As respects your views on localism, well, of course, this whole debate around localism was a bit of a contract from the beginning. It led people to believe that they would actually be able to decide not to have housing in their area, whereas, of course, what was really meant was you would have to have housing, you just get the flack when you decided where you needed to put it. So it was localism with a barb. We look upon the Garden Town proposals in a very positive way, and certainly I would reject the remark that you made that we're building on green wedges. We're not building on green wedges. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Somebody from the opposition wants to say Councillor Johnson.
Thank you, Chair. Can I also thank Mr Brown for bringing the petition. As Councillor Perkins already said, these issues aren't new and they've been debated in this chamber and outside of this chamber for many years. In fact, up until recent years, this council had a policy that any growth should be to the north of Harlow and the north of Harlow only. It shouldn't be around the south and east of the town, which is where some of these houses are now proposed to go. And the current administration changed that, and I'm still very sad that they did that. And I still think that whilst the Garden Town is welcome and housing in the southeast of England is much needed, it should have all been together in the north rather than on multiple different sites. It's always been my group's policy that any development should be accompanied with the relevant infrastructure. I certainly think growth towards Water Lane, Latin Priory will make Southern Way unbearable, even more so than it is, and that really needs looking at. I would encourage Mr Brown and anyone who's listening to this or watching this on your Harlow to make use of the strategy consultation that the council already said was going to be in January to March. I think that's the way to make your points about this. But I welcome the petition, and I do believe that we need to walk very carefully between the need for housing and the need for young people who want to move out and the need for people who are choosing to live slightly different ways and lives. That means there is a pressure on housing in the southeast of England versus protecting our very precious green spaces both in and around the town.
Thank you, Councillor Johnson. Councillor Burton?
Yes, certainly I do. First of all, let's get the issue straight in regard to the local development plan. We can't, which is actually a nonsense. I wish the opposition would actually take up the opportunity to discuss these issues at the plan panel, which actually their members do attend. Because what they're suggesting is that we can have a local development plan for Harlow, which has no houses in Harlow. I'm sorry, we're required by the government to provide a certain number of additional dwellings within our boundary. It's not our fault that the boundary around the municipal district of Harlow is drawn so tight that we have no hinterland to provide additional housing, but it's nonsense to suggest that all of the requirements for additional housing in this area could be built somewhere else. Actually, that's what the other councils say, and what it's usually referred to is NIMBYism. I refer to it as opportunism. But the last point I'd like to make is that I'd like to give some credit to Nick Taylor and Alan Leverett, because they just didn't talk about this issue like the opposition. They actually went along to the inquiry and made some very good technical points in a very professional way. And I think their efforts have actually led to the changes that the inspectors made. We don't violently disagree with the modifications that the inspectors made. Some of them are very sensible, and I think I would congratulate the Alliance Party, or not really the Alliance Party, it's only these two gentlemen here who are the Alliance Party. I hope they're in Alliance, for their efforts during the plan making process, and only wish that the Conservatives would have actually made an appearance.
Thank you, Councillor. Your thanks to Mr Leverett and Mr Taylor are noted. Are we happy to note the petition from Mr Brown?
Great.
Thank you. So now we move on to item 8, the forward plan, which is on pages 14 to 22. I'd like to draw your attention, please, to the first item on that plan, 1010408, which is the town-wide employment site, Article 4 direction. And you'll notice that whilst it's in the forward plan, it's not on the agenda. And there's a reason why it's not on the agenda. It's because there were no complaints or concerns raised to us, so it doesn't actually need to be on the agenda. And I'm going to take this opportunity just to note that Article 4 direction has already proved a success. We received prior notification of a desire to convert an office block into accommodation in the Pinnacles, another community development regulations conversion, and thanks to our Article 4 direction, that was turned down and will now have to go through the full and proper planning process.
Good.
Any questions on the forward plan? Happy to note the forward plan?
Yeah.
Thank you. So let's please move on to recent relevant decisions taken by the lead of portfolio, the lead of the deputy or portfolio holders, and there have been none that need to come to this cabinet meeting. So we move on to item 10, the corporate plan 2020-2021, and I'm moving that.
Seconded.
Yeah, and you'll find information on page 23 to page 42. So I want to say a big thank you to the officers that have prepared this corporate plan for us here tonight, and I'm very proud to introduce this updated corporate plan. It sets out our vision, our priorities and goals over the next 3 years. And it recognises that Harlow is a great place to live and our determination to make it even better. This Labour Council continues to not only deliver a wide range of services to residents, but also to continue to improve them and to enhance what we do for Harlow. And we're achieving all this whilst living within our means. HTS, our local authority trading company, bitterly opposed by the opposition, continues to be a real success story for the council, improving services, delivering more services and returning money to the council. The future is positive for Harlow, and as a community leader, this Labour-led council are making sure that our town is ready to benefit from the opportunities that Public Health England, the Harlow and Gilston Garden Town and the Harlow Enterprise Zone will all bring. And I'd ask you all please to look at page 33 and our goals for the next 3 years. Those being to promote the needs of Harlow, to maintain the council's role as a recognised community leader, to deliver much needed housing at truly affordable rents on long-term and secure tenancies, to improve opportunities for Harlow residents to participate in local democracy and decision making, to improve communication with the public through the community engagement strategy, and to increase transparency through the joint finance performance reports, the procurement strategy, freedom of information and environmental information regulations, and to ensure the council's procurement framework that supports ethical businesses. Thank you. Any questions on the corporate plan? Councillor Carter.
Obviously, with my shadow housing consultant, welcome the commitment to build more housing, more council housing. So therefore, it's a bit surprising that your comment earlier this evening about the report on the housing and housing regeneration will be coming at some stage in the future, when it seems to be such a core aspect of your corporate plan. I'll just start a couple of specific points on page 34 on housing. One of the points there is delivering the house building programme with a wider choice of housing types of all tenures, which include affordable social rented and residential housing. So that's on page 34 housing. Then move on to page 36 regeneration. That says deliver more houses of all tenures to maximise the opportunity for new council homes, social rented homes and other forms of truly affordable housing, and developing a new housing strategy for Harlow. So who's actually responsible for delivering a housing strategy for Harlow Council?
So the regeneration team are responsible for delivering new housing.
So why is it quoted on the housing page then?
Because it's housing.
Because clearly housing have an interest in the housing that's being produced by the regeneration team.
But you're passing over to regeneration to be responsible for that.
No, we're saying regeneration, areas of Harlow is down to the regeneration team, and that part of the regeneration will be the delivery of housing, and clearly the housing department will want some input into what kind of housing is delivered, which the bits are allocated to.
The regeneration also delivering the housing strategy.
Councillor Carter, you're here to ask questions, not to debate with me. Thank you at this point.
So I'm seeking clarification. If we move on to page 35 on economic growth, it says working in partnership with Public Health England to deliver real benefits for local people and businesses, including addressing employment, skills development and supply chain opportunities. Very good. You then move on to page 36, regeneration, which says working in partnership with Public Health England to deliver real benefits for local people and businesses, including addressing employment, skills development and supply chain opportunities. So again, who has responsibility for working in partnership with Public Health England?
Do you want me to take that? Thank you for the mention. Nothing works in isolation. I'm surprised, Simon, that you don't understand this. Nothing works in isolation. We have to work hand in glove to make sure we deliver. From the economic point of view, we have to make sure that we've got the right resources, the right infrastructure, the right money to enable the regeneration to commission work and activities which would then eventually build houses that the housing department can then take over. So everything works together. We don't work in isolation. And I think that's something that we should celebrate, because actually that's what local democracy and local government is about. So I'm really quite surprised that you're asking that type of question.
Any further questions?
Yes. Sorry, just going back. Who is ultimately responsible? Who is the go-to person for Public Health England in the Harlow Council?
Simon, we have a fantastic leader that is directly in front of you. We have a democratic process which is called a cabinet, and we are delegated responsibilities to act in accordance with the priorities of this council for the benefit of this community. So we stand as one, and we work as a team for the benefit of Harlow. So it's not Tony Durkin over there, or it's not Mark Wilkinson over there. We are a cohesive team here to deliver what is required for our team and our town.
Good answer.
Well, it's the right
That's a
answer.
very good answer. It's an appropriate answer. Have you got any further questions?
Well, I assume that Cabinet work together as a team, and then various portfolio holders will be responsible for their particular portfolio.
But
Anyway,
Simon, it's...
sorry, I'm moving on.
Okay, well...
Page 38, clean, green environment. It says, working with the area to ensure a smooth rollout of a new contract with enhancement to the domestic waste collection service. This is in this year's corporate plan. If you look at last year's corporate plan, it said, working with the ODIA to ensure a smooth rollout of a new contract with enhancement to the domestic waste collection service. So one has to ask how long it takes to roll out the new contract.
The new contract was rolled out last spring.
So why is it in this year's corporate plan?
Because we continue to work with Veolia to make changes to the contract, to improve the contract, bring a better service to the people of Harlow.
That's not the rollout.
Any further questions?
Sorry, one more. Page 41, equalities and fairness. There's a point in there to enhance the quality of life and care for people with a learning disability, autism and or mental health issues. So what about enhancing the quality of life of people with physical disabilities or hidden disabilities?
So, this council wants to enhance the life of everybody in the town, of all of our residents. We can't put absolutely every single point in, can we? So we have put a couple in as an example. We could have pages and pages otherwise, but of course we want to enhance the well-being of everybody in this town.
And if I can add to that, on the first bullet point, it talks about taking into account the diversity of the town, and I think that's great.
Yeah.
So why are they doing it?
Councillor Johnson.
Thank you, Chair. On page 30, right at the top of the page, it talks about the increase in our Asian population. An increase is expected of 20% of over 65s in between the years 19 to 2029 in Harlow. Given the increases in our Asian population, I was wondering if the Council has considered the World Health Organisation's decade of healthy ageing, which we're now in from 2020 to 2030, and the leadership role they say not only for national governments but for local councils to promote age-friendly towns and to ensure age and mobility is no barrier in Harlow. I would think would be quite a positive and cross-party way to approach it. And I wondered if that could be reflected in the corporate plan.
Well, I appreciate the question. Thought has gone into it, and I think you raised an important point, and I'd be happy to work on a cross-party basis on it.
Grateful for that, Chair. The next question I have focuses on page 37 and the goals over the next 3 years in terms of the wellbeing and social inclusion brief. Given that, again, on the previous page we were focusing on, the number of people who have a disability, or registered disabled, is going to increase in the town. One of the considerations, given that the council is a disability confident employer, would the council, as part of its 3-year goals, review the prospect of actually having a specific disability strategy or an action plan as an add-on to this to promote positive attitudes around disability, particularly hidden disabilities where there are some issues around barriers, particularly for the accessibility of public toilets, to break down those barriers for those individuals as our disabled population is going to increase.
Thank you, Councillor Charles. We are really committed in my portfolio to looking at inclusivity across the piece and all the areas of work that we're involved in, from paddling pools to the opportunity to provide more public toilets, as you have talked about. It's something I think we all agree there isn't sufficient provision in areas like the shopping centres and at the amenities in the parks and the playgrounds, that sort of thing. So we're really looking at the town from an inclusive point of view, which takes in, people who are ageing, people who have disabilities, and people who have dementia. I'm particularly interested, we're talking quite a lot about, I think you're probably pleased to hear, that we would like to start working towards dementia-friendly town status and that kind of thing. So yeah. I completely hear you, and I think that inclusivity as an umbrella term is something that should be very much at the heart of what we're doing. So I hope that deals with your concern.
The next question I have, again focused on page 37, focuses on the bullet point of what how we will achieve our goals, and it focuses rightly on the working group with Public Health England and their community liaison group. Now, and I think all councils will be concerned about this. Your Harlow recently talked about the fact that Harlow is a high-risk area for HIV, and that's deeply alarming for our town. I would hope, and would have hoped to have been reflected in this particular page, a real drive as a leadership function as the council to tackle these public health issues. Prevention is a real big challenge for us in this town, and given those sorts of reports where we have this high risk for those sorts of diseases, I think it's really important, again on a cross-party basis, that we challenge perceptions, tackle these issues head-on and show some greater community leadership. And I would have hoped this would be reflected more on this page. But I do know the fact that there will be this community liaison group of Public Health England, and I hope that is the vehicle to empower that conversation going forward.
Thank you. I think that's a really good point. I think there are some specific health issues which I'm certainly, as I'm getting more familiar with my portfolio, becoming more and more aware of. And one of the things I'm particularly concerned about, which again is not reflected, but I think is the sort of issue that I think the HIV prevalence is similar to, is the hidden risk to women of heart disease. And there's been quite a lot of coverage in the media recently that women are at extreme risk, and particularly where there are health inequalities such as we see in Harlow with some of the behaviours that we know people are involved in. So I think you're absolutely right that this community liaison group is the place where these specific issues, and we take the temperature for the local appetite around particular issues to ensure that, it's unlikely we're going to be able to give the full the level of focus to every issue that we would like to, but that we are prioritising the issues that our residents are concerned about, and drawing on the full strengths of Public Health England's presence and resource to ensure that we optimise that. I completely agree with you. It's an opportunity, and I think we really need to look closer at specific issues. And I know Jane will be talking about it a lot. We want to be a lot more specific than these sort of headlines. So yeah, thanks for that.
That's it.
Any further questions? Any comments on the corporate plan? Are we happy to note the recommendation A and B?
Very.
Thank you. Now then, I intend to take the financial stuff. That's items 11, 12, 13, 14, 15 and 16. The corporate plan, the medium-term financial strategy, the general fund budget, the housing revenue account business plan, the housing revenue account budget, the capital and treasury report, and the capital programmes on the block.
So moved, Chair.
And I second that. Councillor Danvers, you want to...
Well, because obviously next week I assume will be, obviously we've got the opposition, if there are questions from the opposition, but answer those. Basically, the headlines in this, obviously a balanced budget, given still the government's very mixed indications in terms of whether in fact they're going to relieve austerity on local authorities. It looks like the relief on local authorities simply comes down to relieving the council tax cap. Apparently the Home Secretary has already announced that police commissioners will be able to actually almost have free range of how they put up their council tax. Sadly, local authorities still need support from central government, and in those circumstances, while the position remains so unclear, it's still very difficult to plan for the future. There is no indication of what the future financial settlement will be, but given all of that, we're managing, and we've been able to make sure that our staff are well paid, unlike the previous administration, who froze the wages and then reduced the wages of the staff. We continually have actually rewarded our staff as they should be. Also, we finally got to the position, it's taken us a long time, to make sure the guarantees of the funding of the proper discretionary services, apart from the playhouse now, the Pets Corner, and things like what we've taken back, which has never been given away in the first place, Harlow Museum. We're putting a lot more resources into Harlow Museum. Lots of people have actually commented on how better the museum is. Visitors have gone up no end. In those circumstances, as from the 1st of April, there will be an even better service with the plans that we have to actually properly finance the museum. It's taken us a long time to get there, simply because of the Tory vagaries of local government finance, but we've managed to eventually do it, and we will guarantee now things like the carnival, the firework night, and the Christmas lights and so on. We'll just make Harlow life that much better. There won't be so much uncertainty around those. And then, of course, still the plight of homeless. Although warm words are said by the Tory government, at the end of the day, it's local authorities that have to pick up the bill, and it's local authorities that have to deal with the problem. Even the national government doesn't actually address the whole issue of giving decent housing to people. We look to Europe, we can actually see the solutions there. Holland, Germany, Scandinavia, all have the solutions to homelessness, but it takes national government to actually make that happen. To leave it to local authorities is piecemeal. You even have people actually coming into Harlow, I'm led to believe, because we're able to actually treat this situation as human as possible. So more resources are actually being set aside for that. And we're committed to the green agenda as well, and we're reducing, well, I think we're a bit embarrassed, I suppose, to actually have one of the highest charges, although there are reasons for that. And we're bringing down the all-round, all-year waste collection down quite substantially. I could go on, Chair, but I'm sure I'll bore every step next Thursday.
Thank you, Councillor Davis. Are there any questions on items 11 to 16? And can I just say that there are close to 300 pages in this. So you're very good, Councillor Carter, at giving us the page. But can you give us time to get to the page and tell us where to find it on the page? Because they're very densely written.
How much time did you give us to read it?
It was published as per the schedule.
Did you have to publish it all in one go?
Whatever your feelings about that, all I'm asked is that you give us time to turn to the page and find the line. So I think that's a reasonable. Are there any questions? Councillor Carter.
Paragraph 20 of the General Fund report, page 78.
Look at this. Thank you.
Cabinet has previously been advised of the high risk of year-on-year income variations in business rate income, and the Council has established a reserve to mitigate against such volatility. My question is, which reserve? There is no reference to a business rate volatility provision on Appendix C on page 88, nor on Table 3, summary of proposed movements on general fund earmarked reserves on page 81. So is there some slush fund hidden away somewhere?
So in reference to the question, the reserve that is utilised for the business rates issue referred to in the report is shown on page 88, and it's described...
Let's get there.
Simon, would you put your mic on, please?
Oh, sorry. Yeah.
Thank you.
So page 88, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 lines down from the top of the table, enterprise zone disregard reserve. There's a movement being shown in there of 1.951 million.
Thank you, Mr. Freeman. Any further questions?
I'd say it requires a great deal of imagination to work out enterprise zone disregard reserve is actually business rate volatility, but I'm grateful for the answer. We can move on to page 103, where we're looking at the price changes. No, page 102, and recycling, about 2 goes way down, under green waste. There is football service, are you there?
Yep, thank you.
Yeah. Football service per bag has been deleted. So does that mean it's now free?
Yes, this is one of the changes in that was referred to earlier about changing the green waste collection service. At the moment, there is a service for wheelie bins, and then there is a separate offer for a price per bag, which you buy the bag and then leave the bag out. This led to a situation where we were charging them quite a lot for the green waste collection wheelie bin service, because although obviously there's a routine collection of wheelie bins, the bags were booked on an individual basis, so it was very difficult to organise an efficient service when you didn't know where you were going to have to go, how many vans at the time you needed. And so it was decided that what would be a better service is to more than half the cost of the wheelie bins, but then we would know exactly where we had to go to pick them up. And that obviously means that the service that was causing the inefficiencies, which was having a service where you never quite knew where you would have to go to pick the bag up, is no longer to be provided. So what we're offering is a fortnightly collection in a specific wheelie bin for less than half the price of the service as it was before. But it's obviously a routine collection, and we are quite happy to try and arrange for neighbours to come together to jointly have this, to have the service by a group of neighbours or in the street. The main thing is that we're able to organise an efficient collection service, knowing how many bins we're going to collect and when we're going to collect them. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Any more questions?
My question was, is the bookable service per bag now free service? From what Councillor Burton said, that service has been removed and replaced by the half price green wheelie.
Exactly.
Yes, I think that's
Great summary.
This is a financial report.
Yeah, we all know that.
Can we move on to that? Any more questions?
Page 124, Appendix F, Finance. Wearing my shadow housing hat again. Last item is HDS income of £500,000, which is the profit share going from HDS to the general fund, but there is no similar income reflected in the HRA. Now, bearing in mind that around 3/4 of income to HDS comes from the housing revenue account, this does seem to sail extremely close to contravening the spirit of Article 6 of the Local Government and Housing Act 1989, which created a ring-fenced housing revenue account, in that you are transferring income from the HRA to the general fund.
Chair, to a certain extent, we acknowledge what Simon's saying. We're running with the system for this coming financial year, but there's been strong lobbying from Mark, and I agree with him, and I think our colleagues agree, and we will be addressing that for 2021-2022.
I look forward to it.
Could I also say in time, things that were being paid for by housing it will actually not have to be a monetary transaction, it will actually come back into the general fund. It's kind of certain things that we need to actually address there, that perhaps the housing revenue account has an unfair burden, and therefore we can actually readdress the way in which we calculate that as well.
Thank you, Councillor Daniels. Any further questions?
Can I move on to the housing revenue account?
Yeah, please.
Page 238, we are moving on to. It's a question I have given notice of. If you move down to the income section, forecast income 1920 was 42.8 million. Forecast income for 2021 is 42.8 million. So despite a 2.7% increase in rents in 2021, there appears to be no increase in overall rent income. Why is that?
Chair, I've got an answer to this because thank you, you did notify us of this. There are two factors. Firstly, the main impact of the 2019-20 is based on a 53 rent week. I think you might understand the jargon. Every so often we have 53 weeks on, and 2019-20 happened to be a 53-week year. Obviously, it's going back to 52 weeks. And secondly, an increase in the forecast of loss of rent through the increase and possible increase in empty properties, or perhaps Mark can elaborate on the last one.
That's right. I'm going to be able I assumed it was that, but because this will seem such a sort of large anomaly, I thought it might be able to have an airing. Chair, if I may move on to the capital programme. That's on your bundle. Page 298. Almost at the end of the agenda. Let's slip it away there. Okay. Section D, Elm Hatch. Previously reported work to be carried out on the housing capital programme has been moved to the non-housing capital programme with the expectation that the properties built will be leased to the housing revenue account. So why has this suddenly gone to the general fund, and why is there only an expectation that these properties will be let to the council?
So the scheme has been developed and there's been some issues around the actual content of the development, but essentially it relates to the designation of the land on which Elm Hatch is currently sitting. I.e. it's owned by the general fund, not the HRA, is my understanding.
I understand.
Yeah.
And the expectation?
Obviously it will be subject to the completion of the development and the type of properties that are completed there.
So we're looking to build, the council is looking to build houses which may not be council houses.
We will be looking at the affordability of the scheme and what that means for the tenancy of the development.
So you're not looking to subsidise it to ensure it becomes so.
I don't think we've made that kind of final decision yet.
I'll say, is this really cost effective and best value for money compared with perhaps Bush and Croft, which is only £258,000 per property, and which could therefore, could also put more money into Elm Hatch to make them social housing?
I think the issue with the Readings is there are a number of development problems with the site, which would make it probably extremely difficult to dispose of to any third party, and we have taken the decision that we should move on with it ourselves. But there have been a number of site issues, and the development cost is around linked access to the site than the problems about actually physically building out the properties on that piece of land.
So is it value money? Is the question. And will you be able to afford to make those social housing if they're so expensive?
I think it's always a difficult equation to balance, isn't it, when you have such a limited land supply and you're looking to deliver homes for those in need in the town. So although the costs might be high, I think in the long term for the asset holding for the council, then it still is a worthwhile development to move forward with.
Thank you.
Sorry, so those properties will be as affordable as Elm Hatch.
So these are being developed within the housing building programme, and Elm Hatch is being developed outside of that within the general fund.
Councillor Perry.
Thank you, Chair. I have a few questions. One was in response to... Beg your pardon. One was in response to something Councillor Harvey said. Just a quick... Did you say that the intention was to build or expand public toilets and facilities when you were talking to Councillor Charles?
We're looking at options at the moment. I think it's the way we put it. We're looking at how we cope with the fact that, you know, if you go to Bush Fair, there aren't any public loos at the moment. So, you know, we're looking at it. We think it's a really important issue.
Just wondered when you're planning on potentially building any new toilets?
I don't think there's necessarily a plan to build. We're looking at options. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Just cleared that one up.
No, sorry if I misled you.
Okay, no, it's fine. Moving to the General Fund Act and the report starting page 74, I wanted to go to the table 1 on page 76. Yeah. I had a few questions about some of the items on the page. I wanted to ask, through you, Chair, the portfolio holder, why it's necessary to fund the Seeing nightclub from the base budget, why it's necessary to increase pressure on the general funds that year.
Yeah. So the council is a leaseholder of the property, which was formerly the Seeing nightclub. We have a long lease holding on the property, and the pressure that's reflected in the budget papers before the Cabinet reflects not only the fact that we've lost income through the tenant that previously occupied on a sublease from the council, we've also now had to fund items such as the business rates, and it's very unlikely at the current time that we foresee the property being easy to re-let, and therefore because of our long lease and the loss of income, it's a pressure in the budget in the current year now that the tenancy has come to an end, and it's reasonable therefore to include those costs in the council's budget for next year, given that we have a long-term lease with the freeholder.
So just the anticipation is to go beyond 12 months without it potentially being leased. That's why you put it into the base budget. Where is that ongoing pressure reflected in the medium-term financial strategy?
So in the MTFS, it's one of the pressures that are reflected in the report, but once we've actually accommodated it in the base budget, it's then in the base budget in each of the future years, so it doesn't reoccur as a future pressure.
So it won't have a future impact?
No, it's a one-off pressure that we need to build in.
And there's no need to have that coming from, I mean, it can't be funded from reserves if we're thinking it's only going to be a 12-month thing.
I think my honest opinion is that I can see that it will probably go beyond 12 months given the condition and the nature of the property. I think it's going to be extremely unlikely that we'll find a tenant ready and able to move into that property And even if that was the case, I think there will be costs around refurbishment and rent-free periods that we'll also have to cover off. So I think actually including it in the base budget is the sensible thing to do until such time a tenant is identified.
Another question, Chair. It's through you to the portfolio holder. It's around the additional staffing costs reflected in the same table of 522,000. I just wondered if you could tell us how many staff we are likely to employ that.
I believe from memory it was 14 staff.
And a follow-up question to that. That's obviously going to create an ongoing pressure if we're increasing staffing. What are the staff being used for? What areas? I do know it gives a brief summary in the pressure, but I just wanted to give a bit more.
There's quite a lot of concern in the town in terms of things like multiple occupancy. So I could imagine individual portfolio holders could answer. Yeah.
Can I answer? These additional staff have been budgeted for on the basis of trying to meet the council's priorities and delivering services more efficiently for the residents of Harlow. Each member of staff is assigned to a portfolio that has been the role of each member of the staff has been discussed with the portfolio holder, and I really don't think this is the place for an in-depth look at the job descriptions, but we're quite happy to provide you those in writing.
I just wanted to be clear, that figure of 522,000, you're confident that's correct? That's the budgeted amount?
Yes.
Okay. In the table, you were talking about reintroducing Pets Corner to the base budget.
Yes.
At some £28,000. I just want to clarify that figure because in the medium-term financial strategy it says that it's £128,000. Just wondering what the reason for the difference is.
It's taking us a long time to rearrange the budget that we inherited because of financial constraints, but slowly, like the playhouse and so on, we're determined to actually take those things back into the general fund and guarantee that they actually survive. They had a very, very shaky start 10 years ago. There was a blank as far as after 3 years funding. The playhouse would be closed, the museum, everything, it was all up in the air. We're taking back from the discretionary fund bit by bit, while the general fund can manage it, and to actually secure those services in the long term.
On page 79, the same report, it says the 2020-21 base budget now also includes provision to fully fund Pets Corner from the general fund, but the full cost remaining in the discretionary services fund is actually £128,000 and not £28,000. So, are you going to fully fund Pets Corner from the base budget, or are you going to leave it partially hanging in the discretionary service fund? Because your press release said you were fully funding it from the general fund to put it on a secure footing. Just wondering which it is.
Yeah, so with effect from next financial year, the full cost of Pets Corner will be included in the base budget of the general fund. There will be nothing left remaining to be funded from discretionary funding sources.
But as I say, that cost is £128,000.
But we're going to be bringing it out bit by bit.
Yeah, maybe I can just explain on that. So, in terms of the table that's presented in the general fund report, the very top of the table on page 76 shows a figure of £75,000. That was the original gap that was identified in the medium-term financial strategy this time last year. And to get to the £75,000 gap, we'd already assumed £100,000 wouldn't be needed to fund Pets Corner. What's actually happened as we've developed the budget is that cost is actually 128. So there's an additional £28,000 had to be built into the actual general fund based budget to accommodate the full cost. So it kind of comes at it from two different angles. So the 28k in the table you're referring to on page 76 is the difference between the original 100,000 that was in the MTFS report this time last year and the actual 128,000 that is now in the MTFS, which is the revised cost of the service that we've identified as part of the budget process.
Lovely, thank you. So can we be clear, Chair? Pets Corner is now guaranteed, unlike previously when it had to be in a discretionary fund.
Yes, thank you, Councillor Danvers. I'm hearing loud and clear. Pets Corner is fully funded.
Now, by the
Without
local authority, unlike previously.
additional pressure. Can we have one last question, please? I think,
So
I think if you want to drill down further into that sort of detail, you could have submitted the question in advance.
No.
You're welcome to meet with Mr. Freeman.
I have met with him. The £75,000 original MTFS target saving is already listed here, but it does say in the MTFS £128,000 saving required. 75 plus 28 doesn't equal 128, that's where I'm coming from.
Thank you, Councillor Perrin. Mr. Freeman, would you like to explain once again? Honestly, I think I got it.
Okay, so this time last year, the report that was presented in the MTFS showed a budget gap for this year of £75,000. That was our starting point for this year's budget. Within that 75,000 total, there was an element built into the MTFS which was to try to fully fund Pets Corner in the base budget, and at that time that figure was £100,000.
It was 128.
No, it was 100,000 this time last year.
I have the paperwork you gave me, and you published, it says 128.
So in the MTFS that's presented tonight in the papers, the figure is 128. It's gone up by 28,000. And it's the 28,000 that has grown in terms of the overall cost of delivering the service that is shown in the table 1. Because we'd already provided for the 100,000 in the 75 gap when we arrived at the MTFS figure this time last year.
Well, outside this meeting, I'm quite happy, Chair, to circulate the spreadsheet I received last year that says £128,000. And our alternative budget last year said £128,000 because we were told last year it was £128,000, not £100,000.
Well, I'll be very happy to receive that report. Thank you, Councillor Perrin. Now, are there any other questions?
Not this time.
Thank you. Any comments? Good. So, are we then happy to accept all the recommendations in items 11, 12, 13, 14, 15 and 16?
Agreed.
Thank you. So we now move on to item 17, the debt write-offs. Who's moving that?
I'm moving that, Chair.
And I'm seconding it, and you'll find it on page 313, a long way towards the back.
Chair, it's unfortunate this is. We could have, we like to name names, but one particular organisation with a lot of employees, all 4 organisations were in administration, not being declared bankrupt. It would have actually meant the loss of a lot of jobs. But if we brought the write-offs sooner, each of the cases, there's been a very long and drawn-out recovery process. But I agree that in terms of it looks bad on paper, but these organisations were in administration, businesses that are in administration, and it just wasn't possible to collect the money at the time. But I think it's not very good.
Questions? Any comments? Good. So, are we happy to accept the recommendation A?
Great.
Thank you. So we move on to item 18. We move on to item 18, communications from committees, working groups, parties and panels. Are you happy to note those?
Very good.
Thank you. and the minutes of panels working groups, item 19. Are we happy to note those? Noted? Thank you. I'm unaware of any matters of urgent business, so I thank you all for coming and all meetings are closed.